Well, July Deer Chores. It's crazy. We tick these off every month and go through them. But boy, when it gets this time of year, it's really coming down to crunch time. We have one more month, August, and to get things done. And August is our big food plot planting month. We get a lot done then. We're firming up tree stands. But July, each month, it gets more important. July, August, September, June, that buildup coming in. So July is a critical month to make sure you're on track with not only your chores, your deer habitat chores, but your hunting chores too. And so that leads us right into number one, shooting the bow. I mean, I talk about in June that a big failure is not shooting your bow in June, but when it comes to July, you can see, like when I was in Michigan, we'd have Broadhead League, you know, back in the day. This is in the 80s, 86, 87, 88, where you're shooting through cardboard silhouettes with broadheads. And it was always cool because if you shot a really wide cut, then you had a little bit more of a line cutter, a little bit better chance you'd hit the 20 ring as opposed to the 16 ring, or certainly a body that was 5. But they were cardboard silhouettes held by a wire on the top and the bottom, and you'd shoot into the sand. So you can imagine the broadheads, you figured out which ones were the toughest broadheads after a while too. And when you didn't have a lot of money, you wanted to shoot the toughest broadheads that would last a long time. And that boiled down to back then we were using thunderheads. Rocky Mountain was another one. I don't remember when the Muzzies came out, but all those solid fixed blade heads were what we had to use back then, and if we wanted them to last. But those leagues all started up in July, August, September. In fact, those leagues would end right before the season began, October 1st. I can remember shooting in some of those cold September rains coming down, and season's only a week or two away. It felt like the fall. Leaves were dropping here and there. And it was just an incredible time of the year. We'd end up playing euchre across the road at Waterford Hill Sports and Waterford Hill Archery, or Waterford Archery Shooting Range. And they had guns, rifle, shotgun, skeet, trap, and then they had a beautiful archery clubhouse. And hot dogs. Imagine it's raining, it's cold, and they have hot dogs on the grill, and you're taking a break after getting soaked and shooting your round. But it was a great buildup at that time of year. And around here, you know, it's like our leagues end right around September 1st, which stinks because, you know, the season goes, you know, it's really starting strong middle of September. And a lot of people are getting into in October. I'd almost rather see where I shoot around here that those leagues would go right up to the start of the season at least, or maybe to the end of September, so we could experience some of that summer or that really nice fall build-up time as opposed to May or June when most people aren't shooting anyways. But bottom line, when it gets to July, you got to shoot, please. It's getting to that time where you have to shoot. You have to get familiar with your equipment, new equipment. Like I talked about in June fails, this is a new piece of equipment for me. New broadheads. I'm trying these this year. They're Slick Trick Assailant, and I like it. It's got a little bit wider cutting diameter for me than I'm used to, but it still has the 2 fixed blade bleeder heads, and it's a really nice slim down chisel point. I bet you it's going to get incredible penetration like Slick Tricks always do. So I was excited. I like these hybrid type broadheads because I don't have the failure rate of big bone and meat of a big, wide, heavy cut-in or expandable head, and at the same time I have a lot more of a good wound channel with something like this than I do some of those small compact fixed blade heads that I've used throughout the year. So I think it's that perfect balance. But regardless, I need to shoot them. I need to shoot them long distance, out to 80 to 100 yards. I want to see how they fly compared to my field points. And always remember when you're shooting your bow, and I wrote an article about this a long time ago, and we're going back 12, 15 years. It's on my website somewhere, but it's shooting longer, a lot longer than you'd normally. And I've seen people pick up on that throughout the years, but back then I looked at it like I should shoot twice as long at least that I would in the field and actually hunting. So back then I would shoot 30, 40 yards at the most, but most of the time 25, 30, 32, 33 yards at the most. So that meant I need to be shooting 60 to 70 yards, 80 yards in practice. My good friend Tim Glover up in Marquette, I can remember back in the day, it was the time of the Matthews Ultra. I think he bought one of my old bows back then. It was switchback time. You know, if you remember those bows, that's when he started. You know, I don't shoot 20 yards or 30 yards, 40 yards, but he started shooting 60 yards in practice. I think he lost a couple arrows, but you start honing in on 60. Boy, you feel a lot better when you go back to 20, 30. So whether it's broadheads, your shooting distance, working on your form, Really should be in the thick of things in July, so I hope you're doing that and taking the time to do so. It's really important. Number 2, trail cam hunting season. I'm looking at, like, you know, we put trail cameras out. I put trail cameras sometimes out for weird things. It's kind of like an obsession, but I like, or sickness, you can look at it either way, but I like watching weeds die. I've literally put trail cameras out on a food plot area or switchgrass area because I like watching the weeds die, and I like watching corn come in or the food plots grow. So that's part of the reason I like putting cameras out. Now I even put cell cameras out. It's a beautiful thing to watch weeds die and corn coming up at the same time. I love watching that. We watch turkeys in the spring. Certain areas we like checking out turkeys, seeing where they're at, seeing what kind of population we have, how many hens. You can always tell when they're laying eggs because there's raccoons all over the place, and who knows what other kind of critters. We've even had pictures of badgers multiple times over the last few weeks. So we're watching the other critters, bobcats too during daylight, badgers during daylight, raccoons during daylight. We have all kinds of critters, but we have all kinds of wildlife out there too. And we find that we're finding a good balance on the land with all the cover that we offer too. But I'm really starting to focus when it gets into July on my dedicated stand locations and hunting setups. That's one thing to see bucks during the June that you already knew made it through the season. It's cool to watch them grow up in velvet, see what they look like this year. But when it comes into July, I'm really making sure those cameras are on hunting dedicated stand locations, because most of my stand locations feature a spot. We have mock scrapes at every stand location, but they all have a location we can stick a camera on if we want. Doesn't mean we have a camera at every stand location. It just simply means we have that set up. When we find a stand, we find a spot for the camera, and then we find the mock scrape. All three go together. So when it gets into July, instead of, you know, there's this random spot where some bucks are coming out during the summertime, or this trail system where they're coming through, I'm really starting to get those cameras on water holes and mock scrapes right in front of my stand locations, because I want to monitor what bucks are coming through, if they're coming in the right spot. And I look at it like, if they're out in the summertime, yeah, it's cool to get pictures, but I really want to go know what's going on at my stand location. So I want to put those cameras in there. I hide them pretty well. The only reason that a camera should ever spook deer at a stand location is because of you. If you're leaving your scent around, if you're going in there at the wrong time. But other than that, if you're putting your cameras like we preach and teach, we have for years, 6 feet high, angled down, tree wider than the camera, and the profile hidden in some way, then you're going to be doing great. Your deer are not going to stare at your camera. And of course, we're using the low glow excess cameras, so we're not getting those bright red lights, infrared bulbs shining in a deer's face, because people can say that deer don't see in shades of red or green, but when you have deer staring at night at your red infrared cameras, the only reason they're staring is because there's those red bulbs flashing in their face, and maybe they can't see them as well, maybe they don't see them as bright, but bottom line, and they do see red and green, and so you can't say, well, I'm just going to use I'm using a red or green on my headlamp and walk in and the deer won't see it. You'll be sorely mistaken, and hopefully you're one of my neighbors, because you're going to spook the deer to us. It's a deer drive every time you go in with those red and green headlamps that you have on. But bottom line, when it comes to those cameras, we're getting those in those places. When it comes to battery management and getting those out, I'm putting those batteries in our Exodus around end of June, first part of July. I expect those to last July, August, September, part of October, and then right before the rut, whether those batteries are still good or not, I'm taking them out, and those batteries you put in there often at that time last until not only the end of the season, but all the way into the spring when we go grab those and get them out for a couple months. So I find if you put those batteries in at that time in July sometime, you're letting them run through into October, and then you're replacing them. You get the whole season covered. You're only replacing them once during the season. I replace the batteries when I go hunt that stand nearby. So there's no reason to double up on access. I'm just hunting the stand to bring batteries and change them. Same with the card, if it's a non-cell cam card or camera. Also, hunting location is key. Mock scrape, we're putting our cameras almost exclusively on mock scrapes. And again, I'm not trying to sell you anything with a mock scrape like some people with ropes or cents or anything. Other than 50 cents for the rope you hang the licking branch from, that's all it costs. And I'm finding those scrapes are far more effective than anything commercial made, whether it's commercial scents or commercial products that you can buy as your licking branch. Really don't need that. We're hanging them from simple parachute cord. I have over 50 mock scrapes in my mock scrape playlist, and it teaches you all about doing that. I've been doing it for many years. That's where we get all our B-roll from, those big bucks coming in and hitting the mock scrape. We've done it time and time again, and I guarantee we have more content than anyone else online of bucks hitting mock scrapes in our YouTube videos, on our sites, and everything we do, because we've been doing it that long and it's such a high success. Say kind of like people are putting mock rubs out there. You know, deer to me will hit a mock rub because where we have does, fawns, young bucks, old bucks hitting those rubs or hitting those scrapes. And with a rub, it's off to the side. Typically only bucks hit it. But bottom line is I see about 50 to 1, and it could be even more, that a buck will hit a scrape versus a rub. Literally almost every time they go by, they sniff it or touch it or leave their preorbital gland scent on it. They do not do that with a rub. Most rubs are hit 1 to 5 times, and that's it for the entire season. Even a big signpost rub, they might carve it out a couple times, and that's about it. There's exceptions in staging areas, but really they're not hitting rubs very often. Where scrapes, especially a mock scrape that's right over a trail like we teach, they'll hit them every time they walk by, and it's just a lot of fun. A lot of people are so surprised they can put one of those out and have deer hit them typically within just a few days. Number 3, food plot buildup. Buy now. Really get your materials now. There's a lot of shortages in everything in this country right now, but when it comes to food plots, whether it's chemicals or seed, if you wait till August, it's going to be really late for getting your food plots in, and trying not just getting your food plots in and the buildup, but actually finding food plot seed, fertilizer, chemicals, whatever it might be that you're looking for. I would get it now, and because now is a buildup. You're in July, you're looking at, I need to make sure I have all my materials, because whether you're planting brassicas in early August to late August, depending on if you're planting late August, more Kentucky, West Virginia, into Tennessee, even middle of August, and then you're planting end of July to early August in the northern areas, say northern Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, UP and Michigan, upstate New York. Those areas where you're starting to experience frost earlier, you're getting those in the ground end of July, early August with appreciable rain, and somewhere in between. So August is that time frame for planting. We plant a lot of our cereal grains. They should always be planted. You don't mix rye, wheat. You want to know a bad combination of seed? That's one of the best signs is the rye and wheat, maybe even oats in with the brassica blend. Very, very poor blend. If you see that, run like the wind, because that's probably reflective of every blend they have in their product lineup for that seed company. Something you can look at and say, wow, this is something that's bad. Cereal rye grains, wheat, they need to be planted about a month to 5 weeks, even 6 weeks after a brassica blend. We figured that out over 2 decades ago. You don't mix the two. The rye, wheat, oats, take over the brassica, shade it out, kill it, and really, or if anything, you're just left with poor little stunted brassica and you wasted your money. Bottom line is you don't mix the two. But either way, huge buildup in early to mid-August, and even planting into early September, mid-September, like we do with some of our cereal grains and layering that we do and recommend. There's a lot to be done. Make sure you're on track, got all your materials and product especially going into August. Tree stands. This is interesting because a lot of people are putting their tree stands up, throughout the year. I really favor more July and August for putting my tree stands up. If we have a lot of cutting to do, we're doing that in July. If we don't have a lot, and part of the reason I like doing that when there's full leaf out, and where we know when we cut this down, we're not gonna have anything grow back into our sight window. If you do that in April, May, it's one thing if you have lots to cut down because it's a very thick area, but if it's more moderate cutting, July is a great time to do so. We drag those cuttings away from our shooting lanes, away from deer visibility. I don't want a lot of branches and trunks laying all over the place with brown leaves going into the fall. It just looks out of place. So I like dragging them away from the stand locations where we expect deer to move or we expect to shoot them. Now, if we don't have a lot of cutting to do at all, we can just throw a stand in. It's fairly open woods. We'll favor more towards August, early August to get those done. So you have a lot of time left, but really a lot of tree stand work, and where they're located, we're getting those done by sometime in mid-August, late August at the latest with some of the ones we don't have to cut at all. We still have time because, again, you can work on your land like that, because if you have a good parcel, or if you're hunting a good fall hotspot, there shouldn't be that many deer there in the summer when you're working on it anyways. That's why I enjoy your land from early January until about a month before the season begins. Let it settle down for 3 or 4 weeks. The bottom line is you can do anything you want on a good parcel during the off season and have zero effect on the herd that you can build, let alone the hunt. So it's tree stand time right now. Just really get things wrapped up in your planning. Then number 5, relax scouting. What's really cool about July is Dylan was just mentioning, hey, we're going to be filming these 3 days. We have web class for our Hunting Hills and Thermals web class, and we have YouTube videos to create all the time. But there's these 3 days we should really go out and look for some summer bucks. It's always fun around here. Whether you're sitting on the tailgate, bringing some lawn chairs out into some corn to watch a hayfield, which is what we started doing in the late 80s, early 90s. A lot of fun watching deer come out in the Thumb area of Michigan. Have some fond memories of pop and chips and just sitting and relaxing with some binoculars. Usually some pretty junk binoculars, but they were better than nothing back in the days. So along with that though, great for cruising the roads, looking at deer, shining if legal, and really checking out the fields, especially around where you hunt. It's amazing if you have a good property and you're managing like we try to help you and teach you to do, then any deer you see in ag land within a mile, mile and a half of your land will likely be on your property during daylight at some point, giving you an opportunity if you're there. And that brings it into following the weather. What's really cool about summer scouting is those same weather patterns that we follow for when we should take to a tree stand and get into our favorite tree stand in some morning hot spot bedding area in late October, early November. Those same weather patterns are what will bring the deer out and make them visible before dark during the summertime. So if you have a string of 80, 90 degree days in July and all of a sudden it drops to 77, that's what we're looking for to get those deer, whatever kind of storms brought. We have thunder and lightning outside right now. Bottom line is when all that passes and you have some cold weather in the backside, doesn't matter if it's cloudy, sunny, high pressure, low pressure, but once that all passes through, those big winds, heavy rains, thunder, lightning, and you get more moderate winds and the temperature drops 10, 12, 15 degrees or more, then those bucks go up and fill the fields, and it's all relative. It doesn't matter if temperature dropping from an average daily high of 97 down to 82, or if it's dropping from an average daily high of 82 down to 68. It's all the same. It's all that same drop, 15 degrees, 20 degrees, whatever it might be. It's all relative. It'll get those deer on their feet in your area, and then you can apply those scouting principles and weather prediction, sit prediction principles and strategies easily to your hunt because you've been watching it. Watch your trail cameras during this time of year. Watch your cell cameras when you get good weather going through. Good weather meaning heavy rain, winds, thunder, lightning. You're not seeing any deer move on your cameras, or very few. And all of a sudden it gets cool the next day and it calms down a little bit and that weather pattern's already come through. And notice the uptick on your cell cameras and the pictures that you get. Those are the exact same principles that you can apply to your hunting season, let alone every other time of the year. Great to start watching that in July. Take advantage of some really cool, relaxed, and enjoyable summer scouting trips. And these right here, doing this right here, and then finishing your August chores, it should be time to sit back, relax, and enjoy the hunt. Because, man, once we get into mid-July, we're literally 2 months away from the season. We're 3 months away from the season beginning in Minnesota, Wisconsin, right here as we shoot this in the middle of June. So it's coming quick. Make sure you're on target with these chores right here so that you can be well ahead of the game, be ahead of the rest of the neighborhood, and experience a great herd and the great hunt that goes along with a great herd this season. Folks, I want to make sure you check out my web class video series, whether it's how to design your food plot program or how to design your property in general. And we have a new one coming out that'll be how to hunt the rut. But these bucks back here are a testament. Some of these bucks go back to 93. They're even in different states. I urge you to check out those web classes that you can help yourself, help your land, help your hunt. The link is in the description. And also for those that have tried them out, I encourage you to offer some feedback in the comments below. Thank you.